Shalom and welcome to this week's Living Torah. It might be a little shorter this week because I still have children, grandchildren in town. Children, okay. My oldest is 41 now, I think it is. So, but you know, they're still children, okay. And we have four of them leaving today to go back, and then three more tomorrow. Been a great time, but let's just say it like this: the dog is sufficiently petted. She's had constant attention the whole time, and is probably gonna be looking at me and Kathy when they all leave and say, "Okay, who's gonna pet me?" And we'll just let that go. All right. One announcement before we get going here with. Actually, you know, one of my favorite Torah portions, of course, on the Tabernacle, is that Bezrat Hashem, God willing, on March 14th, I will be at House of David in Gloucester, Virginia, with Barry Phillips, Laura Phillips, and the crowd there. Really looking forward to that. It kind of just we just put it together in the last few days. So if you're anywhere around Gloucester, would love to see you. All right, this week, as I said, we get into a favorite Torah portion. Why is that? It's because back, almost about 30 years ago now, something like that, I was introduced to a teaching on the Tabernacle. And it so enthralled me in that day, continues to do so to this day. And when people ask me, so how did you get involved in this walk? Well, first of all, it goes back to early days in the 1980s, late 1980s, listening to Joe Good on TBN, Trinity Broadcasting Network, as he was talking about Rosh Hashanah, the coming kingdom and the Passover. But that would lead into working with the ministry that actually taught on the Tabernacle. And again, I just got so enthralled with it. And so I've talked to so many people through the years that said, you know, I get to those verses on the Tabernacle and I just get lost in the details. Well, there are a lot of details, but the truth is that every single detail has incredible meaning. And I'll get to a little bit more of that as we go. But I want to start with this, the verse, verse 1. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh said to Moshe, "Tell the people of Israel to take up a collection for me, accept a contribution from anyone who wholeheartedly wants to give." And the word there is teruma, the contribution. Now, again, the setting, and I know I've talked about these things in the past, but I think sometimes it's just something that we need to remember, and maybe I've got a little bit different slant on it this week than I have in the past. That to sound kind of like Hanoka and myself when we talk about when we do the Israel update, the involvement. You know, the Almighty could have. I mean, he's self-sufficient, right? That's one of the omni things that we were taught in Sunday school or wherever, one of those omnis that he's omnipresent, he's omni this, and he's omni that. And does he really need anything? Well, the truth is, the answer is yes. And the word need, I guess, kind of breaks down as we think about it, that it's more of, he doesn't need, but there is a desire that he has that produced Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. Now, to think that I or anyone else for that matter actually understands that, I don't think we can comprehend. But it is this desire that he had inside of him to, well, I've said it like this, and when I've said this many times in a conference or a setting, people have come up to me and tried to and said, well, that's not really right. Well, let me just say it. If you agree with it, fine, or if you don't, why did he do this? Why is it that we have Genesis chapter 1 verse 1? And the truth is that he is lonely. He was lonely for a being, a people who were made in his image. Okay, I've spent the whole week, this past week, with 14 plus people in the house, and we have a dog. Okay, And Kathy and I love our dog, Kaya, but there is a place of love that you cannot have for a pet. Why? Because they're not made in your image. But your children, your grandchildren, they're made in your image and they can communicate with you. And there is should be a flow of love back and forth that is far beyond anything that a pet, an animal can give you. And so, nothing against the angels, but with that being said, he wanted someone, a person, a human that would be made in his image. Again, do I understand that? No. And for anyone who says that they do understand it, I really don't think they do. But it's this very thought that the Almighty would be lonely, that he did have not just a desire, but a need. And that need produced, and still does produce, a relationship. And that's where religion and relationship, people have become so involved in religion that it does not suit what the original purpose of our creation was and continues to be. So he says that tell the people, my people, that you're to take an offering. And so this is where it goes to one step further. For first of all, we have been created to fulfill a need that he has, but then he desires for us to be involved in that, to be involved in the process. When Yeshua said, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens, he wasn't just teaching those words, trying to get the Almighty to stand up and do something. But those words were to produce action in us that would be in line with the actions of what he desires to produce in this world. The very essence of the blessings that we say when you raise a cup of wine or grape juice, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei pri hagofen, or the bread. When we raise those, who brings forth the fruit of the vine, who brings forth bread from the earth. Truth is, he doesn't do that. But it is through a mutual effort between us. He gives the dirt, he gives the rain, he gives the seed, he gives all of these things. But unless we go out and do that, nothing's going to come forth. And so this concept that I think Judaism has a much greater hold on this concept than Christianity has. And that Judaism sees it as, okay, here's the verses, we need to do something about it. For Christianity, as was said by Tommy Waller years ago, that Christians open the Bible and they see a list of prophecy, Jews open it and see a to-do list. Well, the truth is, both are right, but if all we do is read it and don't do something about it, what's going to come about with it? Nothing, okay? So this word teruma is to understand the word would be the root word of this, which is resh vav final mem, and that word is found first of all in Genesis chapter 7. Genesis chapter 7, verse 17, the flood was 40 days on the earth. The water grew higher and floated the ark so that it was lifted up off of the earth. The word resh, vav, final mem, is to rise, to ascend. And so this is the word that's used here in Exodus chapter 25 of us taking something, elevating it into another realm that would affect our realm. Again, it's simply the words of Yeshua in the prayer when he taught the disciples, your kingdom come, or your will be done on earth as it is in the heavens. To elevate, here's the essence of what's happening here. To elevate our lives above the chaos of this realm. Now, we may not be today experiencing a flood of water upon this earth. But, with that being said, the word teruma and rum both have something in common, and that is that there is a mem. In teruma, it is a mem. In rum, it is a final mem. One of those speaking about an earthly realm water, the other speaking about a heavenly realm. So the waters of this earth are chaotic, but they will one day in the kingdom be peaceful. So we have this opportunity as we're walking through this life to be a part of the process, elevating that which is our lives, that which we have influence over, in order to rise above the chaos. So, I mean, let's face it, again, we don't have a flood of natural water. Well, I guess we could, other places do experience floods, but I'm talking about in a sense of, you look at the news, you look at what's going on around us. We compare that to Matthew chapter 24. There will be wars and rumors of wars, of earthquakes, and all of these things that are going to be happening. What is that? That is a chaos upon this earth. But what is he calling us to do? He's calling us to elevate our lives, elevate our actions, elevate our words, elevate our conversation. You get in a room of people, where does the conversation normally go to? It descends to the chaos of this earth, what is happening on this earth, instead of ascending unto the realm in which we can find peace. So this word teruma is in a way is related to us rising above the chaos of the world to find his peace. Now, also we can go over to something I'll talk about more in a moment, but the essence of the verse that we see, the Shema. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Interesting enough, this morning as I'm sitting down and I'm putting my final notes together, my phone goes off. It was 9 o'clock, and it's time to stop and say the Shema as I was reading the words of the Shema. Okay, so the Father just does it. If we look and we train ourselves to notice, I think we can see his work in our lives all the time. If we desire to be raised above the chaos of this world. Some people like to live there. Okay, so he says in Numbers chapter 6, verse 5, you are to love him with all your heart, your soul, and your strength. I think King James uses the word might. So the three words here of heart, first of all, is it's not the beating thing in our chest, it's our inward man. The soul, our nephesh, and then our might. So what is this telling us? We are to elevate through our work on this earth, through our contribution, through our teruma. We are to elevate this world, and the way we do that is through, first of all, our inner being, which then affects our outer being, our flesh, that which is driving us, and that produces actions that will produce action. It is seed bearing seed. So everything begins when we are driven, if you would, by His will, His purposes inside of us that then cause us to act upon those purposes, producing, which will then produce. Now, a little sharp turn here. The essence of the tabernacle is found, and actually, I could go farther than that, not just the essence of the tabernacle, but the essence of life itself. I talk, as you know, I talk to people all the time about purpose. I was just doing that the other day. Purpose, purpose, purpose. Why? Because people need to be taught about purpose. Humans are the only species, the only part of creation that has to be taught about its purpose. Here we are, it's the middle of February, looks like springtime out there. The robins are here, which means spring is on the way. Here, within a week or two now, we will probably start seeing the daffodils. No, I don't have to go out there. I know where the daffodils are coming up, okay? I know the different places. I know the specific spots in which usually every year I'm going up this hill right here, and I take Kaya to a specific spot and the daffodils come up, and I have many years stopped, got her to sit down and taken a picture of her. It happens, we've done this over and over again. I don't have to start going up there now in the middle of February, 2 or 3 weeks before the daffodils are coming up, and start instructing them while they're still hibernating in that ground on how to come up and how to produce the leaves and how to produce the flowers. I don't have to do that. But with humans have to be taught about what our purpose is. So Scripture is basically, it comes down to a very simple, though, I can complicate purpose. Others have. You can write books and messages and do messages, all kinds of stuff. But what is our purpose? It's to be a dwelling place. And this is verse 8 of the tabernacle. It says, they are to make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them. A fascinating study, if you ever want to do this, is to go through the Scripture and see all the places that it refers to Him dwelling with us. It began in the garden. It is all through Scripture. And then is in the book of Revelation, Revelation 21, a renewed heaven, renewed earth. There will be a people, He will be our God, we will be His people. This is all about dwelling, about Him abiding. The word there is to abide or to room together. In John chapter 14, verse 2, Yeshua says this, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, but I go to prepare a place for you. Well, the translators, whether this was on purpose or not, the translators were at least influenced by Constantinian Christianity, Roman Catholicism, which was all about, about the power over them. I said to one of my grandsons yesterday, we were talking about some different things, and I said, if I can produce fear in you, I can control you. And I'm telling him this because it actually started out with a conversation on, I said something jokingly about global warming, and he's like, well, that's not happening. So I went through and talked to him about the history of how back in the 1970s, there was going to be an ice age. So we were all going to freeze to death. And then it turned into a global warming. We're all going to boil or bake or whatever. I said, all this does is produce fear. And I was trying to, in the process of that, teach him that we should not enter into fear. Because if I can produce fear in you, I can control you. And that's what is happening today in the earth in many, many different places, politics and the like. So in Catholicism, there was this thing of purgatory. Now, I do believe in a heavenly realm. I do believe that the heavenly realm will come to this earth. I don't see in Scripture that we go to heaven and abandon the earth. That's, one verse is Psalm 115 that I think absolutely destroys that. The heavens were made for Elohim, the earth was made for mankind. But the other side is, I believe there is a place which Isaiah 66 talks about, which is a separation from God. But these things were used, these concepts, specifically this place of hell, Hades, was used to instill fear in someone. Growing up in a Baptist church, growing up in various denominations later on in life, growing spiritually, Kathy attests to this in the church she grew up in. It was all about fear. You went to an altar to get quote unquote saved. Why? Because of fear. It was not about relationship. So on the other side, this word of mansion got put in to kind of, the people are being held under control. There's poverty. There's, life is rough. And, well, let's put in mansion. So this produced songs like, I've got a mansion just over the hillside. Okay? That's not what the word is. In fact, if we were to really look at it closely, I believe that the word used of mansion in John chapter 14, verse 2, is the same word that is here in Exodus chapter 25, verse 8, a place to dwell. I go to prepare a place for you. Now, the typical concept is to then try to understand that. All right, one of our sons is a general contractor, and he builds. That's what general contractors do. Okay, and so we tried to put that in that somewhere up there in the heavenly realm, that Yeshua is there with a hammer, nails, and 2x4s building houses for us. That is totally outside of what this is. A place for us to be together. So Yeshua, we could say it like, I got this in my head, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, is Yeshua's purpose upon this life, in this life, his death, burial, resurrection, was the preparation that we would be able to room together with the Almighty and not be separated from him. Because of sin, we are separated from him, which is a place that Scripture talks about as Hades or hell, Gehenna. But because of the work of Yeshua, we will be allowed, honored, to dwell with him. The last thing we need to do in this process is to try to put it into a physical realm. Just like the golden calf, anytime that we try to put things in a physical realm, the commandment of do not make an image of anything what is that commandment about? It's trying to take that which is of the heavenly realm and bring it down to the earthly realm. Instead, we are called to do the exact opposite. So the tabernacle, though, was to be a picture, an image, a visible image of what was happening in the Hebrews, in Israel. The tabernacle was to be a visible image of the Almighty dwelling with them. So anyone in the surrounding communities that the Hebrews would be traveling from place to place in the wilderness, anywhere they went, if they were to encounter other communities, other people groups, those people would be able to look at this dwelling place, this tabernacle, this Mishkan, but they would see something different. They would not just see another tent, but they would see a pillar of fire, which was the kavod, the glory of the Almighty was in that, and that would be a visible image of Yah's desire to have a people, Revelation chapter 21, a people, he would be their God, they would be his people. The visible image. When we go through and we follow this, and by the way, this is in the temple also, which, let me backtrack here. So the temple, on the Temple Mount, was again to be the same thing as the tabernacle. It would be in a different form, but the function would be the same. So the difference in the tabernacle and the temple is not about different form. It is not about different function, but it does take on a different form. In Shiloh, where the tabernacle stood for 369 years, okay, it comes through the wilderness, goes then to Gilgal, and then eventually will go to Shiloh. It was there that the tabernacle, they actually built a stone wall, and it became more permanent. But what was happening? What do we see? We see any time that the function of the tabernacle was not living up to the correct function for the tabernacle, what happened? Well, the Philistines stole the Ark of the Covenant. What was lost? The visible image of Yah upon this earth. The glory was no longer there. We see that in the temple. Solomon builds the first temple. The glory comes in. The form and function. The form is a little different. The function is the same. What would happen? The first temple would be destroyed. Why? Because of idolatry. Because of many things that were happening. They weren't living by the scripture. Therefore, they were perverting the function of the temple. The temple would be rebuilt. The second temple would be destroyed. Why? Because of the baseless hatred of brethren. The form was there. The function was perverted. For the last 2,000 years, this time of the Gentiles has been, and what is this? Shaul says, you are to be the temple or tabernacle of the living Elohim. Well, so the form has changed. The form has changed from a garden to a tabernacle to a temple to a human body. But what's the function of it? The function is to be a visible image of Yah upon this earth. When we read the book of Acts, what is going on? Well, the temple, because the function had been perverted, would now become the form of the early followers of Yeshua, who would line up form and function in one. But then what would happen? Marcion, Constantine, moving on down the line, and for the last 1,700 or so years, the function has been perverted. What is this Hebrew roots Messianic movement all about? What is it supposed to be about? It's supposed to be about the function. A function of a people who are walking in the Melchizedek priesthood of Yeshua, that the form has changed into human bodies. But the function is the visible image of Yah upon this earth. Well, there's coming a time, and I, for one, pray, may it be soon in my day, and I see what is going on in Israel today. There's actually, I don't know if this is going to happen, but there is a pushback from from some in the government with all that's been happening in Israel with the Temple Mount. Jews going up, praying openly, dancing, singing. I've been there. I've been in when I go up to the Temple Mount these days, I don't go up with a tourist group. I go up with the Jewish groups. And this is impacting the Temple Mount in such a way that there was an article the other day, some of you may have seen it, that, and Hanok and I talked about it also, that Arabs are not going up in mass to the Temple Mount. Why? Because they're seeing Jews prostrating themselves, bowing down on the Temple Mount. And their statement is this: when the Jews begin to bow down to God, we're done. I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but they see the power in what is happening. So I go up with the Jewish groups. There's a whole thing right now with Ramadan being talked about, that the government will actually restrict some of the Jewish prayers and observances on the Temple Mount for Ramadan, and it's getting pushed back. It should get pushed back. Whether that will go through or not, I don't know. But there will be a day, it's called the kingdom, that the temple will be there as a visible image of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh upon this earth. I believe instead of having the Ark of the Covenant, it will be the seat, the throne of Yeshua himself. Now, the tabernacle is Echad. Okay, it's the essence of Echad. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. He is Echad. What was the tabernacle? It had an outer court, it had a holy place, and a holy of holies. Which, if we look back at this, the essence of that we are to love Adonai or Elohim with all our heart, soul, and spirit, it's the same thing. It's the same message. The tabernacle is to be a message to us of who we are and who we are in him and what we are to do with that. It is Echad. But when Moshe is called to build the tabernacle, he again is called, he is told the first instructions are not about the poles and the curtains and the gate. The first instructions are about the Ark of the Covenant. It's about the heart. It's about the inward being of the tabernacle, which will then flow out into the soul of the tabernacle, which is the holy place, and then will flow out in the action of the tabernacle, which is the outer court, and the laver, the altar of sacrifice. This is all this beautiful picture. Okay, so it begins and moves out. Moshe, we will see, actually has to begin the building on the outside and then move inward. Okay, I'll get to that as we go through. Now, I said that I was going to do a shorter video this week, and that turns into about 45 minutes, or let's see, something about 35 minutes instead of 45, so that is shorter. But for those that would like to, I'm not going to go through and do the complete teaching through this one this week, because I hear outside my door, grandkids, there's some packing, hopefully there's some cleaning, so they're getting ready to head to the airport, some of them, and I'm going to spend a little bit more family time, okay? I think that you guys will understand that. But for those that would like more, you can go to my website, jointohashem.org. A number of years ago, I went down to into, where was I, in Alabama, I think, and we actually did a 3-hour or so teaching on the tabernacle, and it's recorded, professionally recorded, and those teachings are on my website. You can go to jointohashem.org, click on Tabernacle Experience. That will take you to another page, and there's a block there. I'm going to actually do a little bit of work on that prior to Thursday morning when I release this. but it is 3 different videos in that block, and you can click on part 1, part 2, part 3. It will take you to each one of those teachings. All right, so that'll give you, if you want to go more in depth in this. For those, for the people that have through the years said, oh, I just get lost in the tabernacle, all the details, ladies and gentlemen, every detail is so amazing, because every detail is about this concept of him dwelling with us. The ultimate of that is the Torah became flesh and dwelt among us. The tabernacle is a picture of the one who would come and dwell, and the one who will come and dwell. All right? Shabbat Shalom. Shavua Tov. Have a blessed, prosperous week. Bezrat Hashem, God willing. See you again next week. Until then, be strong.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichunecha. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.